Hi, I'm Kitty Hobatter, a licensed graduate marriage and family therapist with Inner Evolution Counseling here in Frederick, Maryland. And today we're going to be doing some psychoeducation about talking about suicide. Our learning objectives for today are to talk about what can lead to suicide. We're going to get deep into Thomas Joiner's interpersonal theory of suicide, how clinicians should be speaking to clients so that clients know what to look for when seeking treatment for suicide attempt or ideation, and how to talk to kids about this very important topic. Firstly, the interpersonal theory of suicide by Thomas Joiner was presented first in 2005. And basically, what it says is that for a person to consider suicide or even attempt suicide, three things have to come together in just the right mix. And those three things are a perception that the person is a burden, a perception that the person doesn't belong, combined with a capability for suicide. So basically, what that means is the person will have feelings that they don't have a group and they don't belong, and that will make them feel very hopeless. And so then they turn to thoughts about suicide or even attempts of suicide to alleviate that pain. And that's where we find that lethality. To go into this model a little bit more, we understand much better that if we can tackle the perception of being a burden and the perception of not belonging, then we can reduce the risk of capability and exposure to death, pain, and suicide. We then also reduce the risk of attempts of suicide and thoughts of suicide. So it's really important that we try to catch people when they say something like, I don't want to be a burden. I feel like I don't belong anywhere. I don't have a group. Nobody likes me, that kind of thing. And that's when we really want to talk more openly with our loved ones and our kids about what's going on so that we can prevent them from moving over into that capability bubble where we see higher risk for suicide due to death or serious attempts. When we're trying to combat suicide and we're taking somebody to see a clinician, we want to make sure that that clinician is using scaling questions, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how much would you like to die? How much would you like to live? Those scaling questions give us an idea of how serious someone is about their thoughts of suicide. We also want to make sure that our clinicians have had adequate psychoeducation on suicide and suicide prevention, and that they can also provide that to you and to your loved one, present the theories, and talk openly and candidly about suicide and how to prevent it. We also want to make sure the clinicians are presenting suicide as a non-fixed state. Suicidal thoughts and ideations can be mediated by reductions in stress, increases in self-confidence, and changes in circumstances. And that's the kind of thing that we want to look for in finding a clinician who's well-versed in helping prevent suicide. We want to increase the client's comfort and discomfort. So we're going to have a client hopefully seeing a clinician who has capability and training in helping them find something we call wise mind, which is where your emotional mind and your logical mind merge together and come together to find a really good, nuanced middle space where the two things can exist in comfort. We want to increase emotion regulation, understanding what our feelings are, why they might be coming up, and how best we can handle them. And we also want to make sure we have increased distress tolerance, that we can sit in discomfort and know that it's not the end of the world and we're going to be okay on the other side of this. We also want to make sure that the person who is thinking about or has attempted suicide has a safe person to speak to who is not a loved one, in addition to their loved ones or friends. So we want to make sure that as soon as we know that they've had a thought about suicide or an attempt of suicide, we get them to a counselor, a therapist, a psychiatrist as soon as possible so that they have that objective third-party person who can help them deal with these feelings, deal with these thoughts, and stay alive. Okay, so when we're talking about suicide, we want to make sure that we're speaking calmly, candidly, and from a place of authority. We want to make sure that we're using the words that we mean and we are avoiding euphemisms when speaking about suicide. So if you think that someone might be considering suicide, ask them in plain language, hey, I've noticed that lately you've been withdrawn, you've seemed really sad, you haven't been with your group of friends. Are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself? And let them tell you yes or no. And I want to make sure that you use those words, because if you ask, are you thinking about hurting yourself? That leaves room for the person that you're talking to lie to themselves and to you by saying, no, of course I'm not thinking about hurting myself. When people are getting into the place where they're in that critical last stage of the interpersonal theory of suicide, they're not viewing suicide as something that will hurt them. They are viewing suicide as a way to end the pain that they are experiencing, which is why it's so important to use the terms suicide or kill yourself and not hurt yourself. You don't want to give them a chance to tell you something that isn't true. And if they say yes, make sure that you maintain calm. Say, "This is serious. That's important. Can you tell me more about your thoughts?" You want to make sure that they're comfortable speaking with you, that you stay calm. You don't give them any shame feelings for thinking about suicide. And don't talk to them about a time that you maybe felt the same way, because in that moment, it won't be helpful. It'll come across as you're more important than they are, even though that's not what you're saying. You want to make sure you keep the focus on the person, tell them it's serious, tell them it's okay, and ask them if there's any way that they can stay alive long enough to get to help. This is serious. I don't think I'm equipped to give you the help that you need. Can we talk to somebody else? Call a counselor, go to the emergency room, call a psychiatrist, go to your doctor, and that those people can get you the help that you need to stay alive just a little bit longer, to see if maybe there's something worth living for. When we're speaking to children, we want to make sure we take into consideration the age of the child and ask them, "Hey, have you ever had any experience about suicide? Have you had any thoughts about suicide? Have you known anyone who's thought about suicide?" And let the child tell you what they know about suicide to begin with. From there, considering their age again, of course, you can talk to them about what might need to happen in case they have those thoughts, that it's perfectly okay to come to you. You will stay calm and get them to help so that they can stay alive, because their lives matter and they are precious to you. It's very important that they feel comfortable knowing that they can come to you and tell you if these thoughts occur, because they can occur even in a child as young as the age of 8 or 9 years old. So even elementary school students have had some thought of suicide or contact with someone who's had a thought of suicide. And so it's important we know how to talk to our kids about it. If you're nervous talking to your child about it, you can always bring them to talk to a clinician and say, "Hey, we had this experience where my child had questions about suicide or knew somebody that was thinking about suicide. Can we talk about what that might mean and what maybe they can do to help their friend or what they can do to help themselves?" And we will be happy to sit and talk with you about that and give you a good start to opening that conversation. The most important thing is to maintain your calm with your children. Be authoritative and say it's okay if you have questions. It's okay if you've had these thoughts. We just want to make sure we're keeping you safe. It's really sad that your friend had those thoughts. We want to make sure we're able to keep your friend safe. Can we talk to your friend's parents about this? We want to make sure we're never the last person to know or the only person to know. You don't want to be the person holding that secret, hoping that someone doesn't attempt suicide, because if that person dies, then you're going to have a tremendous amount of guilt, and we don't want that for ourselves, and we definitely don't want that for our children. So it's really important that you talk about this with your children. And it can be a conversation that you have at the dinner table, like, "Hey, I noticed in recent social media posts or in like the TV show 13 Reasons Why that was very popular a few years back. Have you guys had any real life experience with something as hard to talk about and think about as suicide?" Opening the conversations in that relaxed way can really provide a lot of safety for children to talk about their feelings, to talk about their questions, and know that it's okay to have those questions. And if by chance your kid is having those thoughts, letting them know it's okay to talk about it with you is the best first step in making sure that you get them to help as quickly as possible, and let them know that you are there for them no matter what. Here's some additional resources on the Thomas Joyner interpersonal theory of suicide. Please feel free to contact us with any questions, and thank you for your time and attention.